Hey, good evening. I just wanted to take a second to clap back to a Facebook comment. Now, typically my clapbacks are my actual reply. I replied to the person with the video. But to be fair, this was a Facebook comment and I took a picture of her comment. I think it's a her. And I'll put it here for you. But she basically said, why are there so many trans people now? She never heard of this craziness years ago. So I did reply to her, lengthy replies, and I felt like it was an educational moment that I should probably share with the world and you, my lashes, my friends, my fans, my admirers, and sometimes my haters. I don't think her comment was as a fan, I'm more of a hater, but it's okay. I don't meet ugly with ugly, so I will take this as a learning opportunity and teach with this opportunity. But let's talk historically. The first evidence of a trans person was found 7,000 BC, so that is 10,000 years ago. And there's lots of evidence. If you go to your academic data page and you look up words like third sex and third gender, the word transgender did not become a word until 1965. Before that, transvestite was a word in 1911, and transsexual became a word in 1921 with Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld. But if you look at what the archaeologists call trans people historically, the two words that you can look up are eunuch and third sex or third gender. Trans people have existed on every single continent and every single skin color and every single language around the globe. This is definitely not something new. And speaking of eunuchs, have you heard what Jesus himself had said about eunuchs? Matthew 19:12, Jesus said, "For there are eunuchs who have been born that way, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by others, and there are eunuchs who chose to live for the sake of kingdom of heaven." And let's break down those three types real quick. Type number one, Jesus himself is acknowledging that people are gender variant from the womb, literally born this way. In his exact words, he is acknowledging that people are born this way, which is an ancient recognition of intersex, trans people, gender variant people. From a biblical standpoint, and that's important from a biblical standpoint. But now from a scientific and biological standpoint, we now know that all humans at conception are XX, physiologically female. And the penis in the clitoris is not finalized until the second trimester, and then the gender is not finalized until the third trimester. And we now know that historically, 3.5% of humans, that's 1 in 350 humans, are born with a brain that got a different amount of testosterone. That is a biological statement. That is a scientific fact that has been proven. Me personally, I do feel that I was born with this brain. I do feel that I am type 1 eunuch. Type 2 eunuch is a eunuch who has been made this way by other people. So we're talking about the enslaved indentured servants. We are talking about the royal guards, and we are talking about the castrati. So these three are very common examples of people that became eunuchs, not by choice, but by demand of someone else. The castrati was a Sistine Chapel boys choir, for example, and they were castrated so that they would keep their soprano voices and become famous opera singers. The eunuch slaves and indentured servants and the guards were castrated because they wanted to keep the sultan's bloodline pure and the kings and queens, their bloodline pure. Like none of the men around the daughters and concubines and harem could have fertilized the children because they are all the kings or the sultans, depending on the continent that you're in, bloodline. That is type 2. And the third type, and there are those who chose, this is New International Version, to live like eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. The one who can accept this should accept it. So Jesus himself is acknowledging those who consciously choose to live outside the traditional gender and sexual roles of societal standards. But if you do not understand the science of being born transgender, I get it. But you cannot dispute or argue the fact that all trans people who choose to live their truth authentically fall into the third type or the third category as type 3, the eunuch who has chose to live this way for the sake of kingdom of heaven. Let that sink in for a second. I think that is a revolutionary statement. And it doesn't matter what version you read, it reads the same. There are 3 types of eunuchs: born, against their will, and chose to do this for the sake of kingdom of heaven. Why would somebody choose to do this? Why would somebody choose to be something that the world, the government, the church, the family has such a hard problem with? Now we're hearing politicians and news channels calling hormone replacement therapy chemical castration. So again, I don't care what part of the spectrum you live politically or religiously, you can't deny that trans people are by definition eunuchs, whether they've had surgery removal or chemical castration removal. Also in Galatians 3:28, there's neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female. So that is a whole nother Jerry Springer of the Bible, talking about there's no difference between male and female. And we should focus on our relationship with Christ, not our social or biological distinctions. Paul is essentially saying that gender, like race or class, is a worldly distraction and a worldly distinction, not a biblical distinction. Okay, I'm sorry, I got distracted. So while this video was downloading, I can only do 5 minutes at a time on Snapchat, but I did fact check my previous statement. Since the year 2017, I have shared that 1 in 350 humans are born on the transgender spectrum. Statistically, that is apparently an old number. Now it's 1%, so 1 in 100 are born transgender. However, most documentation of trans people are only self-documented. So I would consider myself a dinosaur trans woman. Like, I transitioned in a time where you passed or you didn't. Society accepted you or they didn't. And if people are going to give you a medical form, you had to self-disclose that you're transgender. So I'm not shocked that these numbers have varied, because historically speaking, for centuries, trans people were exalted. They sat at the right hand of kings, and they were judges, and they were leaders. They were priests. They were honored members of society. It wasn't until Western society in the 19th and 20th century, so that's the 18 and 1900s, that trans people started to become persecuted. That's when trans people went back into the closet and or started to hide. It's not that there are any less trans people now than there were before. It's just that you didn't notice. I mean, how many times does the word eunuch appear in history? Tons. All right, so I do understand why you think it has become more relevant or more trendy, and or the awareness has definitely increased. But also, if you've never heard of a big red truck and you go outside looking for a big red truck, guess what you're going to find? Big red trucks. Since Caitlyn Jenner came out in 2015 on the cover of Vanity Fair, trans has been a topic. It did not start in 2015, honey. I'm not shocked that these numbers have varied. The best way for me to describe it is this. There are 7 kids in my family. My second youngest sister is left-handed. And growing up, our church, our school, our community told my little sister she was going to hell because she was left-handed, that she was demon-possessed, that she was broken, that she was wrong because she was left-handed. But in middle school, she was given left-handed scissors and left-handed desks, etc., left-handed notebooks. And pre-middle school, she had learned to pass as a right-handed person and kind of became ambidextrous. But once society released the stigma of left-handed people, she felt more comfortable coming out of the closet. And yeah, you will notice graphs of suddenly there's more left-handed people in the world. And it's not that there are more left-handed people in the world. The left-handed people have always been 10% of the population statistically. That's a biological fact. You talk about deaf people and educate people and hearing impaired people, they don't suddenly become deaf because they heard about it. You don't talk about wheelchair accessibility and ADA compliance and people suddenly need wheelchairs. You don't talk about LGBTQIA and then suddenly people are LGBTQIA. But what people are afraid of is now young people have words to describe what they're feeling and what they're thinking and what they're knowing. But just like left-handed people, as the trans community and the gender nonconforming community and the world grow in its understanding and acceptance, more people feel comfortable to come out of the closet. The numbers have not increased, but apparently it's now 1%. And in closing, I'm going to wrap this up for you. As a Christian, there's a lot of intersectionality going on. I will always be a trans woman. I will always be a Christian. I will always come at you with different multiple perspectives. But as a Christian, I was a missionary. I went to Oral Roberts University and I was an overseas missionary. And the Bible verse that we learned how to save someone and or invite Jesus to live into your heart, Acts 8:26 through 40. And in this Bible verse, an angel approached, Paul tells the story, but in this Bible verse, an angel approaches Philip, and Philip is told to go down to an abandoned dirt road where he stumbles across a Ethiopian black eunuch, castrated and or chemically castrated and or trans person and or gender variant person. And this is the only Bible verse that I know of that teaches you how to become saved. And the only Bible verse that I know of that talks about submersion baptism. So as missionaries across the globe, as proselytizing evangelical Christians, the Bible verse that we learned on how to become saved and or accepting Jesus Christ into your heart as your Lord and Savior, Philip is leading a black trans person to salvation, and they go down and become baptized. Think about it. But no, honey, trans people are not new. What's new is society has become more accepting, but also the internet. I mean, I grew up in the 90s when we had to meet at the water fountain at 4:00. Now we can text people, are you ready to go? Let's meet. Communication spreads so much more quickly now. The world has gotten smaller. And you know more stuff. Anyways, loving you.